So you heard Chris. He has MikMak Insights opened up on his Chrome browser, and I know that is true because I can see the analytics on the other side. And I thought I'd share with you today some of our real-time data. Obviously, we are living in unprecedented times, and I want to show you what's happening in the consumer economy. The first thing is, I think it's really important to understand our worldview as I take you through the data. When I started MikMak nearly 11 years ago, it was during what I would describe as the social media self-service commerce era. Every brand that was coming to market was built on the backbone of Shopify and Facebook ads. That playbook stopped working, and it stopped working in the year 2020. And it has nothing to do with the pandemic. It has everything to do with changes in data privacy. Apple wakes up and realizes companies like Meta and Alphabet are building multi-billion-dollar businesses in their hardware, and they're not seeing a cent of it. And they decide to change the whole nature of how data is being monetized, from us automatically opting in to now us automatically opting out. And that created the perfect storm for the rise of retail media. Why? Because the retailers own first-party data to monetize. So for the last 4 years, the billion-dollar brands that are being built at mass retail. And we describe this period of time as the commerce media, commerce data as a service era. But we at MikMak believe that the world is changing again, and we pegged it to this year. And there's a reason why. Gen Z starts to turn 30 this year. What happens in your 30s? You become the next great buying power. You get married, you buy a house, you have a baby. How Gen Z sees themselves is so drastically different than prior generations. They're more racially diverse, they're more sexually diverse. And I share this because the next billion-dollar brands to be built will be built on top of media data, meaning the places where consumers spend time, layered with commerce data, the most important commerce data being inventory and basket level sales data, married with psychographic and demographic data. And the way that this is going to happen from a technology standpoint is predicated on two things that you're going to hear us talk a lot about, which is APIs and AI. And that is the commerce intelligence era that's going to be built on top of composable commerce technology. Now, all of that flexibility is what's going to allow you to continue to navigate the insanity that we are all living in. And when I talk to all of our customers, and MikMak is working with over 2,500 of the biggest brands in the world, and I boil down what you're all dealing with. The first is, how can you generate profit in today's environment? No one knew what was going to happen to the world in Trump's first 100 days in office. And now we've all lived through it. And in many ways, it feels like 2025 is actually starting in May. We'll talk more about what's currently happening in the macro environment. But big question for you, number one, is how are you generating profit amongst all this volatility? Big question for you, number two, coming out of last year. If you looked at all of your earnings, it really doesn't matter what you're selling. There is one consistent theme. In 2024, volume sales were down. Why? Well, Rachel Tipograph, have a very strong perspective on the why. I believe as an industry, we have over-indexed on bottom of the funnel retail media spend. You are cannibalizing your organic sales opportunity. That person who was going to buy that item at Walmart or Tesco, and then you light up an ad against them, was going to buy it anyway. Too much of the media budget has shifted to bottom of the funnel. The way that you drive volume sales is by bringing new consumers into the funnel. That's how you drive growth. How do you bring new consumers into the funnel? You have to invest in upper funnel media. Many of you know, before I built MikMak, I ran global digital at Gap. And we had a rule of thumb at Gap. If you invested in mobile, social, and TV all at once, we saw our cost per customer acquisition go down by 7x. Why? Because enough people in the world knew that we existed because of the upper funnel investment. So we need to right-size the pressures that are currently happening from retailers so you can do full funnel media to drive volume sales. But then there's an extra nuance, which is you're probably nodding your head up and down. Rachel, I agree with you. But the reality is we have trade agreements with our retail partners where we're contractually obligated to deploy this spend, even though it isn't driving incremental growth. And on top of that, they're not going to open us up to more brick and mortar channels until we show that we have enough sales online. And so there's all of this tension to help you navigate the volatility, drive volume sales, and gain consumers for life. We get it. Your job is really hard. And our goal is to help you become smarter in real time so you can navigate those conversations. Now, I want to share with you some of our real-time data so you can see where the world is. There's a famous saying, you probably know it. In tough times, people drink brown liquor. In fun times, they drink clear liquor. 25% of MikMak's customers are alcohol. We're the largest player in media and alcohol. And I share this because I want to show you what people are drinking. In 2023 and 2024, brown liquor was way down. In Q1 of this year, look where brown liquor is now, especially something like cognac. It's right behind tequila and gin. What this is showing to us is that consumers are saying times are tough and I'm turning to brown liquor. But what our data is also showing is that consumer resilience has been there. So we're 20 days into the month of May, and the public markets are doing better than they've done in the first 100 days of Trump's presidential office. There's a few reasons why. One is this pause, right, between US and China, so tensions are easing. But the second is economic data is coming out from Q1. And what Q1 economic data is showing is that consumer resilience was there despite everything that was happening in the macro backdrop. If you look at MikMak data from April 27th to May 17th, so we tried to make this as real time for you as possible, what you can see is conversion rates essentially have hovered around 8%. So this purple line here is the most recent data point where we saw average conversion rate end for the week at 8.7%. What this is showing us is that, hey, all of the things that we were talking about where brand manufacturers and retailers were going to increase prices, that hasn't scared away consumers yet. And as the economy hopefully continues to improve, we truly believe, because our data is indicating it, that consumer resilience is going to remain. And then in terms of media volatility, I think many of you know this, we've been at the center of this global TikTok story because MikMak has the largest real-time data set to show what's happening around the TikTok ban. And what you can see here on the far right is that on January 19th, we saw TikTok traffic go to 0%. It took until about March 1st for it to reach Q4 levels. And then by April 1, it was surpassing Q4. So everything that Chris said on the why behind TikTok Shop is a big reason why we continue to see brands invest in this channel, because it can build brand and drive sales all at once. So what we ended up seeing comparing Q1 to Q4 is that TikTok traffic increased by nearly 20%. Yet Meta traffic went down by 3%. Why? We've seen a direct correlation to the announcements that Zuckerberg made in January around removing fact-checking from the platform. What often trumps ROAS in all of your discussions is brand safety. You care more about your long-term brand equity than short-term sales. And so where did those dollars shift during all of this chaos? They shifted to Pinterest. So we saw nearly an 18% increase in Pinterest traffic comparing Q1 to Q4. Pinterest is a place that's considered brand safe and you can drive conversion. What did you see in Pinterest's earnings? Their best earnings yet in the last 2 years. MikMak data once again predicting Wall Street earnings. And then Alphabet, we saw dollars shift to Google search and YouTube. Now, Alphabet, their earnings were a little bit mixed, but a big part of why those earnings were mixed is because ChatGPT is coming for their share of search. And we continue to see ChatGPT rise in our traffic as a source of referral traffic to your brands to drive conversion. And then finally, the consumer boycott. If you all remember on February 28th, consumers said that they were going to boycott retailers because everything that was happening with DEI and politics. Well, guess what? Consumers didn't boycott on February 28th. They actually turned to online shopping. And who was the big winner? Amazon. The weekend of February 28th, we saw Amazon conversion soar by 42%. And you can see here, eMarketer turning to MikMak to understanding what was happening in real time around retailer traffic and the consumer boycott. I share all of this because if we're honest with ourselves, we know that 2025 is going to continue to be volatile. And the best thing that you can do right now to put yourself in the driver's seat, I truly believe, is one, have real-time data at your fingertips, because you got to be able to navigate this chaos in real time. And the second is you still have the pressures of driving profit and driving volume sales. And I've been doing one thing my entire career, and it is this. And history grows to show that the only way that you're going to be able to effectively and efficiently drive volume sales is by investing in full funnel marketing. You have to make sure that your investments aren't lopsided to just make your retailers happy. You will never be able to drive long-term volume sales that way. And so it is so important to continue to right-size your investments. And if I look across most customers, and if you look at history of some of the brands that have been able to sustain tough economic times, and you look at their media mixes, the benchmark is 70% is going towards upper funnel national digital media, and 30% is going towards lower funnel, which is inclusive of retail media. And if yours is more lopsided than that, and your volume sales are down, I encourage you to have this conversation. Obviously, we're here to help you do this. We're driving conversion at every single touch point, national digital media, offsite retailer direct, brand websites, your owned and operated channels with our APIs. Every single time a consumer is interacting with you, it's the opportunity for you to drive conversion and collect data. And if there's anything that goes to show, we no longer can live in a world where you can just place your bet within a few channels. The world is too volatile. If all you did, for example, is went all in on TikTok in January, you would have been screwed. You have to diversify your investments. You have to invest in full funnel marketing, and you have to put yourself in a position to own your data to be able to navigate this level of volatility.